Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. I am Lawrence Pressman, 1 day older than yesterday. He is Teddy Covers, and you're watching the best daily all sports betting show on the planet. And Teddy, I got to shout out. We had a ton of people purchase that promo last night, and they went 2-1 with me. So shout out to you guys. We're running that promo all week. We'll discuss it a little later in the show. You, my friend, I think said you went 1-0 last night, correct?
I did. We're running pretty good right now, Prez. 80% over the last 6 days of action, 74% over the last 11 days of action. That counts every play in every sport. So running pretty good here in mid-May.
Nice. Brother Johnny Detroit rocks up into the chat room and says, good luck today, boys and girls. So good luck, Teddy. Good luck on the show today. You know, I know you're going to need luck. I don't want you to have bad luck. So good luck on your show. Who's on? What are we talking about?
Well, it's $2 Tuesday over at WagerTalk.com. We got a pair of guests that are going to break a whole bunch of stuff down for us. Ralph Michael's going to lead off the show. He's got a chart. We're going to talk NFL win total, specifically the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're also going to talk some MLB Rangers and Pirates with Ralph Michael. We've got Bryan Power talk some English Premier League action, Man City against Brighton for tomorrow on Wednesday. He, too, has got some MLB he wants to talk about, White Sox and Guardians. We're going to answer questions in the BS segment today. We've got a couple we're going to talk about. And if we get 100 likes, we'll get a presidential address to close out the show. So there you have it. 2 for Tuesday. Let's get into it.
You got it, my friend. Ralph Michaels joining us. It's $2 Tuesday. He is the $2 Tuesday handicapper, which is why he has 2 pens today. Ralph, how are you, man? Nice to see you.
Doing great. It feels weird being on here on a Tuesday instead of a Friday, but Johnny reaches out and says, hey, you like anything for Tuesday? I say, absolutely. He says, you haven't been the $2 Tuesday since November 1st. So it's been a while. Grab it. What a deal. $2. You're getting a 5% MLB play. My 5% MLB side plays 6-2, 75% the last 8. And going back to 2021, 12-4, 75% run.
Yeah, outstanding stuff, Ralph. I mean, those have just been such consistently good plays for you. Congratulations on that. So you've got a chart. Let's start there. I hand the mic to you.
Well, listen, I just went back to the basics. It's baseball. Basketball's winding down. Sample sizes are too small. NHL sample sizes are too small. So I went with something easy, guys. If you're just a basic baseball fan, it's still very important to know how your teams do versus a lefty starter and versus a righty starter. As always, I'll throw this chart up on Twitter at CalSportsLV later, so you can take a deeper dive and see the numbers more clearly. But there's 3 parts to the charts. On the left-hand side is just the overall record for each team. It has what their profit is, their record, their average line, and where they rank in profit. Obviously, the green being the top 8 teams, the red bold being the bottom 8. You see the teams in the middle blue, and then to the right, we have a versus a lefty and a right-handed starter column. So I just want to quickly point out a few of the teams that have the biggest discrepancies from lefties to righties. The Cubs are number 1. There's a 22 spot difference between their profit versus lefties and righties. You see the Cubs are number 6 in profit versus lefties, number 28 in profit versus righties. The Reds also number 7 versus righties, number 28 versus lefties. The LA Angels, one of those teams that has a huge discrepancy as well. The Angels are the opposite. They're poor against lefties, going number 27, but they're number 6 versus righties. And also Boston, one of those teams, the Red Sox with a big discrepancy as well, a 17-point difference. So basically, you want to look where the greens are outliers to the right versus lefties and righties. That gives you a quick glance of those teams. But again, I'll post it overall on Twitter. The number one team versus left-handers this year, Boston. The number one team versus right-handers, the Rays. The team that is number 30th against left-handed starters, the Guardians, who I know haven't been able to hit left-handers for years. The number 30th team as far as right-handers go, the Oakland A's, who are 6-28, minus 18 units versus right-handed starters.
So, Ralph, this is a really interesting chart because it takes away all the advanced metrics and just gives us wins, losses. So it's an interesting look as opposed to, most of the cappers that you talk to when they're talking about how teams do against lefties or righties, they're talking about WRC plus, weighted runs created plus. Would you rather look at that specific stat where you're only getting the results against left-handed or right-handed pitchers, or would you rather look at the full game results where, yeah, they started against a lefty, but many of these games, most of these games, the lefty didn't finish or the righty didn't finish. They saw pitchers from both sides of the plate in that contest. So I guess my question is, one's loss versus weighted runs created plus. Do you like them both? Do you like one better than the other?
Teddy, I think sometimes we overanalyze. So I do like looking at basic numbers just for the eye test. You know what? We get so cute nowadays and keep adding things. So you absolutely have to use them all. But, what's great about this show, Teddy, and I should talk to you before I do this chart because you always come up with a way to improve the chart. What I should have done, and again, what I can do one of the times I'm on the show, is do first 5 inning results versus a lefty starter or a righty starter, where I'm going to say 80+% of the time, the starter is going 5 innings. So the first 5 inning result, I think, would be much more accurate for this. I think you'll agree with that as well.
Sure, I would.
So,
Ralph Michaels.
You know what? It's something I will throw up on Twitter later today. I'll do that chart, Teddy, this afternoon. So I will post this chart as well, and I'll do a first 5 inning comparison that you guys can take a look at the numbers and see how much they do have a disparity between full game and first 5.
Yeah,
look at that. I just gave Ralph more work to do. Thank you, Ralph.
No, unthank you, Teddy. Ralph is a busy man. Stop. Ralph, Tampa Bay is playing Toronto today. Barrios is a right-handed pitcher. Short line. I know we're not talking about this game, but based on your chart and the form of the Blue Jays and Tampa Bay, I'm thinking you're telling us Tampa Bay is the bet.
I do like Tampa Bay. I was actually close to using them today. So again, Prez, like all my charts, and I'm just going to take one quick second and say this on Twitter. I have so many people when I throw out some wow numbers, some crazy angle. We're not telling you to bet a side or a total because of one system, one angle, one chart. It is just part of the process of building your repertoire to getting to the side you want, or perhaps taking you off the side. So, again, yes, there's advantages there. Yes, there's disadvantages in that. I did look at the Tampa Bay side. It was a game that I was interested in using. I did ended up leaving it off in the long run. You have 2 quality pitchers, but I was afraid to go against Berrios in this spot. I think he's in a situation where, in the last game, he had 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. That's what I look for him to improve. Yes, he gave up 3 runs on 6 hits, but I think Berrios is ready for a solid performance this evening.
Well, let's get into the games that you want to discuss. Pittsburgh, Rich Hill on the mound facing Texas, Nathan Eovaldi. And we spoke about this matchup yesterday in great detail, and we're wrong. Where are you going here?
Well, I'm going to go with Texas. I'm going to lay the half run in the first 5 innings and lay the 125. Now, Rich Hill, amazing. 43 years old, the oldest pitcher in baseball, off a 6-inning shutout against Detroit. What can you say? what's 2016 on. He was great in 2016, has been very, very solid. But I am going to fade him in this role. Not really fading him, but I think there's value going in the other side. Eovaldi with a .99 whip on the season, a .93 whip on the road. He's off a loss. And I like looking at situations where you have steady pitchers. One is off one of his worst performances of the year. One is off his absolute best performance of the year. And when you look at Eovaldi, he gave up two home runs last game. And why is that important? Well, in his first 8 starts, he gave up a total of 1 home run. So yes, I figure it was an anomaly performance. He's had 6 straight quality starts. So we're playing the first 5 innings. I believe we're going to get that out of him. A solid 6-to-1 strikeout walk ratio for the season. Pittsburgh, off their start, people were excited, but they're 5-14 since. They're 3-10 against winning teams. Texas 10-4 off a loss, 9-5 versus lefties. And those Texas bats are booming. They had 4 runs and 7 hits yesterday, but they're averaging over 300 over the last 7 days. And over their last 10 games, they're averaging 10.4 hits per game. Their offense gets it done. Eovaldi at least slows down Pittsburgh enough. First 5, minus a half run, minus the $1.25.
This sample size question is what I have for you right now, Ralph Michaels. You talked about how Pittsburgh has struggled over the last 20 ball games. But you look at Pittsburgh right now, they've won 3 of their last 5, 4 of their last 7. They're definitely starting to snap out of that little funk that they had. When you're betting MLB, would you rather the longer sample size that says they're 5-14 in their last 19 games? Would you rather the shorter sample size that says they're 4-7 in their last 4-3 in their last 7, or 3-2 in their last 5? Are you looking at what's your sample size preference when it comes to MLB hot streaks versus cold streaks?
Shh, Teddy, you're giving away handicapper secrets. That's the funny thing when you're handicapping. You can always find a positive record about any team in any situation. You are telling the sample size that you want to use. So absolutely, if you're on the Pittsburgh size, you're going to give those examples you want. Realistically, when I'm looking for a play, I do like 9 to 10 games because that's giving me 3 series, and that's giving you twice through the rotation. When you're using a 10 game, every team uses a 5-man rotation. So you're going twice through the starting rotation. You're going through 3 series likely in that span. So for me, my preference is a 10-day, and that's often why on Twitter I do look at these records for the last 10 days, and that would be my answer to your question in that situation.
Yeah, and Teddy, that was a great question, man. I mean, you didn't ask it to me, but I'm going to bugger off. Hey, I'm complimentary to you all the time. You should maybe try that. I use 10 games.
I would if there was something
to
compliment
Ralph.
you about.
I use 10 games as well. But Ralph, as we don't have a third guest today, we have some breathing room. And this is a really interesting topic to me. I think specifically to baseball, at least from my perspective, the swings and the roller coasters in baseball are like no other. Now we've got the Toronto Blue Jays on an 0-5 run. I think they're like 5-13 or something. And I mean, it's just horrific. They're going to win 1 or 2 games, and then they're going to go on a tear. This happens in baseball all the time. And it's something that people need to focus on. When teams that are good, Tampa Bay goes out and wins, starts the season on a monster run, then I mentioned it's time to fade them. They lost some games. The one interesting thing about baseball is signal out the teams that you think are really good, and when they hit the skids, wait. Ralph and Teddy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I want to, because I
go,
Ralph,
Teddy.
You want to go first? Sure.
Go ahead, Teddy. Yep,
okay.
You go.
So I don't like a 10-game sample size. I hate a 10-game sample size. I hate it for NBA, and I hate it for MLB. In my mind, you've already missed it 10 games in. I like to get teams right as they're morphing. I want a 2-game winning streak or a 2-game losing streak is what I'm interested in.
Yes.
And that to me that's when you jump. If you're waiting 10 games, you're not striking while the iron is hot. So I tend to look for my immediate, all right, I'm going to back this team. I'm going to fade this team. I tend to do it at a much shorter sample size than 10 games. Ralph?
Yeah, Teddy, I'm not arguing that point. But when you're looking at the whole of a team, I never look at full season stats. I never look at full month stats. I still want to know that process. So yes, if a team is hitting well and you lost a couple games, I am just looking at those 10 games to then determine if they're making their run or if they're failing. So no argument with your point, and I'm not saying you're basing your play on that, but that's the data I look at for when I'm now going to you and looking at the shorter sample size. I really only look at the last 10 games, with the exception of rare occurrences as a big favorite, as a big dog versus lefties versus righties, where a 10-game sample size might only get you 2 games versus lefties.
Right.
I said, Prez, I went to my database and I pulled out this system, just like you talk, MLB teams are streaky. So, often you hear in football, it's different. Listen, you have a week between games. How much money did people make betting Belichick and Brady off a loss? Because you had an entire week to game plan to the next week. Baseball is not that same situation. You're in a city, you're playing the next day. So while this is only a 48% record, it's not a wow number. It's a 48% record with an average line of minus 139. So your return on investment is over 15%. And it's simply this. When a team is off a loss as a favorite of a 150 favorite or higher, and now they're anything but a 200 favorite. So I threw away 200 favorites, because obviously you have a stud on the mound if you're a 200 favorite. But MLB teams on the road, off a loss as a favorite of minus 150 or higher, under 49%, with an average line of minus 139. So that just goes to what you said. Yes, teams bounce back off streaks and get hot, but in baseball, it's clearly not an automatic to play a team off a loss as a favorite when they're on the road, in that next game.
Well, let's turn our attention to some NFL. Teddy is putting in his work already, a couple of hours a day studying. I haven't looked at a damn thing yet. And that's why Teddy's September in NFL is the single greatest thing anyone can bet on in any sport, anytime, any year. You got it's true, Teddy. Like, legitimately, that is a true statement. I don't know what you do in September, but if I'm people now, I'm literally like, however much money you make every week, take 10% of it and set it aside just to bet Teddy's NFL in September. But we're talking to Ralph now. So, Ralph, you've got a over-under win-loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What is it?
I do. And I am, of course, playing around in the database, as I'm doing this. Teddy covers last year at WagerTalk in the month of September. His NFL went 11-4, and that is 73.3%. So that was a down year for you, Teddy, wasn't it? Only 73% in September. I don't have enough time to go back for multiple years. But Prez, you made a point.
I've been with it. Ralph, I've been with Teddy. We're at 20 years now, give or take. And I'm telling you, because you bet as well, there is nothing. There's no Tokyo Brandon in Korean baseball, Dave Koken in college football, you in college it doesn't matter. Nobody is better over a month period than Teddy is in NFL in September. Then he screws the whole year up. But that September is
last year.
Ridiculous. Sorry, Ralph.
No problem. I'm going to have them throw up the schedule for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the schedule guide. We talked about it last Friday, still available. So if you guys have the graphic that I threw in Slack, maybe while I'm talking, there you go. This is the Tampa Bay schedule from the schedule guide. So you see the color-coded, what their dogs and what their favorites. You see the breakdown on the right-hand side, how many times they have more rest, how many times they have fewer rest. Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a dog in 15 games. And Teddy, we mentioned it last week. Well, that doesn't mean your win total is this, because I went through the database, and NFL dogs of 2 or more since 2016 have gone 482 and 1142, 29.6%. So that's all NFL dogs as a dog of 2 or more since 2016. But when you look at the Tampa Bay schedule, obviously now they're replacing Brady. And I know Baker Mayfield opened some eyes going from Carolina to the Rams with no prep time and getting them a couple wins down the road. But Baker Mayfield still on the season, a 10-8 ratio, sacked 36 times, 60% completion, which isn't bad. But when you have a 6.5 YPA, yards per attempt, it is not good to only have a 60% completion. His QBR rating, 79. And I am going to say this. I've watched enough of Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. The one team that he could have gone to last year and done okay with was the Rams. McVay uses the fewest plays in the NFL. He uses the exact same personnel 85% of the time. So for a quarterback to go into the Rams system, you can learn how to play. So I'm going to take that all out. He has a new OC now in Tampa Bay. And you look at the schedule from week 7 on, they play in different cities. Excuse me, from game 6 on, they play in a different city for 9 straight times. They have back-to-back road games 3 times. So at home, back-to-back road, at home, back-to-back road, at home. It's a very difficult situation. I break down their schedule. I break down their opponents. Remember, the NFC has 9 road games this year. They rotate every year. The AFC had 9 road games last year. The NFC teams now all play 9 road games. And I actually think this line is a point too high. I think their win total should be 5.5. And part of that reason is, well, they were a playoff team, but they were still minus 45 points on the season. That was worst in the division. That was worse than Atlanta, worse than Carolina, worse than New Orleans. So yes, they finished number 1 and made the playoffs, but their point differential was the worst in the division. Now they're playing all those teams. I bet this, my first play, I'm going to load it at WagerTalk, so don't buy this play if you see it. Tampa Bay under 6.5 wins. It is juiced now to minus 130. It did start at minus 110, so there has been some money on that. But to me, the Bucs are in a rebuilding year, and hopefully they perhaps maybe are looking to get a number 1 quarterback out of USC. Who knows, for their quarterback of the future.
So, Ralph, I'm certainly not going to try to make a case for Tampa Bay over the total. I'm with you that this is a rebuilding team and a rebuilding season. However, when I look at their schedule, I see 3 games for the entirety of the season where the Bucs step up in class. They got Philly, Buffalo, and San Fran. Let's call them 0-3 in those games. The rest of their schedule, they have the NFC South, which is one of the 2 weakest divisions in football. They have the AFC South, which is the other of the 2 weakest divisions in football. And they have the NFC North, which is the third of the 2 weakest divisions in football. All right. They don't play a single other team except for those 3 that stands out to me as good. I know the Saints are lined at 9.5 wins. The Saints are lined at 9.5 wins because their schedule is unbelievably weak. And Tampa plays a first-place schedule. New Orleans doesn't. But when you look at all those +3s and +2.5s and +3.5s, they're lined at 6.5 wins because that's what it adds up to. Do you worry at all that their schedule might not be quite as tough as it looks at first glance? Or is that kind of a non-factor for you? Because I've only got the 3 games where I look at Tampa and say they're outclassed here. Every other game, I look at them and they're live.
Well, again, you're looking at, Trask and Mayfield as your quarterbacks. So, I am playing against those. It's clearly the system. Yeah, they have a weak schedule, and, that's what it is. I will say this, the division games, they went 4-2, and they had Brady last year. Now, from going to the playoff team and the winner of the division, it's hard to say you have a bullseye on your back when you had a losing record last year, but still division foes aren't going to look past them or take them lightly. So I would take those division games out of the equation. because they are what they are every year with the division. We know that. Agree with your other two, but it's still this. I don't like their early bye week. I don't think that's preferential to have a bye after week 4. Yes, it might help your quarterbacks, put in some new plays or learn the systems, but both guys have been there now for the entire offseason. So again, when I break down the schedule the way it is, when I look at what they've lost, they were so high on the salary cap. They're taking a hit on it this year with the people that are retiring. They're not spending the money on free agents, bringing new people in. You're going with mediocre quarterbacks at best in Baker Mayfield. So when I put that all together, I have them at 5 wins when I broke down the schedule, Teddy. And one thing I do want to mention, and that's part of the reason I have the guide. It's easy to go through and mark wins and losses as you take the team, but when you're filling out your schedule, make sure if you have Tampa Bay as a win on one side, you're marking the other team as a loss, and you're not all of a sudden. Too many people bet too many overs because they go through a schedule and says, that's a winnable game, that's a winnable game, that's a winnable game, that's a winnable game. Well, you can't have winnable games on both sides of both teams when you're comparing the schedules. So that is one suggestion I do make for everyone when they're breaking down a season on win-loss totals.
Ralph Michaels just ended the longest segment in Wager Talk Today history. And Ralph, it's because of you. You're full of incredible info, and we were not going to shut you up. And Bryan Power will just have to kick back, relax, gel his hair, and wait. Ralph Michaels, $2 Tuesday handicapper over at Wager Talk. He's got a best bet going tonight, a 5% going tonight. Last time he was a $2 Tuesday handicapper was back in November 1st. He won that play. Guys, take 2 minutes, go to the website, look at how great he's doing. It's unbelievable stuff. And his play is only $2. Ralph, we got to let you go. Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Thanks, Prez. Thanks, Teddy.
Teddy, we also have 2 experts over at Sports Memo for $3. Rocky Atkinson's got an MLB play of the day, and Cajun Sports, which, by the way, Cajun's my favorite spice. Blackened and Cajun. Nobody cares, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Teddy, what did we learn in the wonderful world of sports betting?
So, what happened last night? LeBron's legacy on display. And of course, we got to talk first half, first full game between the Lakers and the Nuggets. And yeah, LeBron got swept last night. 20th year in the league. It's the 3rd time he's been swept. He was still arguably the best player on the floor for the series, although I don't know if he was the best, maybe the second best after the 2-time MVP and Joker. So what? They got swept. The Lakers had no business being there. This team started 2-10. They had a completely rebuilt roster. They rebuilt it again completely at the trading deadline. They dealt with injuries all year. The number 7 seed beat the number 2 seed Memphis. The number 7 seed beat the defending champs in Golden State. There's no shame in what they did this year. The Lakers overachieved, not underachieved, just like so many other LeBron teams. And people are like, oh, well, LeBron, if you got swept, or, Jordan had Scottie the whole way. He had Phil Jackson the whole way. He had elite role players the whole way, from Bill Cartwright to Dennis Rodman and Paxson and Horace Grant, Tony Kukoc, and all really good players. LeBron went to the finals with Antoine Jameson as number 2 and Anderson Varejao as at number 3, man. I don't think his legacy gets stained by this. I think it's enhanced.
Yeah.
Enhanced by the Lakers making it as far as they did.
Teddy, I am so with you. And don't forget, Jordan had an aging Celtics team. And
an aging Pistons team.
Yeah, an aging Pistons team, a New York Knicks team with 1 major star, an Indiana team that couldn't get out of their own way. I mean, LeBron played in an era where there were some monster teams. Yeah, and I'm not disputing who's better than who. I mean, the bottom line is Spud Webb is the greatest basketball player of all time, and that's just a fact. So other than that, you guys can argue till you're blue in the face. Who cares? Bryan Power joining us, Teddy. I did have something to say though before I brought Bryan Power.
I haven't finished, Lawrence.
Oh,
I have one more thing I wanted to talk about.
Keep going.
I was planning on it, but you interrupted me. So Knock
As I
yourself out.
do. As I do.
I wanted to talk about the betting teams down 3-0 first half versus full game. I had someone tell me yesterday, well, it's -2.5 first half for the Lakers and -3.5 full game. Clearly, there's no value in the first half line. There's a shitload of value in the first half line. You read it wrong. There's no value in the full game line. Lakers came out with their hair on fire, looking to avoid the sweep. I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics do that tonight. Full game could be a different story. The team down 0-3. It's hard to punch back when the other team punches. And the Lakers, give them all the credit in the world. They fought tooth and nail to the end last night. They could have laid down in the fourth quarter. They didn't.
Yeah.
They fought back. That said, note the difference. First half, full game with these potential sweep situations, both tonight and moving forward. Lawrence, Brian?
Hey, Teddy, Johnny Detroit sticking his nose in our chat room and settling us down. He's a huge Jordan fan, clearly. Points out that he only played with one All-Star on the Bulls squad his entire career. Okay, fine. Where do you want to go with that one?
Multiple Hall of Famers. Only one All-Star. Dennis Rodman wasn't an All-Star. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Anyway, I love Michael Jordan. And by the way, the movie Air is spectacular. Bryan Power joining us. Anything to add so far in the show?
Yeah, I actually have a lot to add. I just watched the movie Air myself. I was very pleased to hear what Teddy just had to say. I think people who rip on LeBron are weird. At worst, he's the second best player in the history of the game. As far as the Bulls debate, you guys were just talking about, like what Jordan had to go through in his era. People also forget the West stunk in that era. Like if you look at the numbers, the Seattle Sonics and the Utah Jazz, I don't care if you had a Sean Kemp or a Karl Malone poster on your wall growing up. Those two teams were two of the worst teams to ever make an NBA Finals. I was
and Houston,
the Blazers,
that
Rick Allen and Blazers team.
They turtled so bad in that game. It's like Jordan hit like a couple threes and they just quit. But like I was going back actually in that finals. I forget which one it was against you. Utah scored like 50 points in one of the NBA Finals games. Teddy? You would remember that better than I probably. But yeah. I swear I saw that I on the internet, so it must be true. But I mean, like 54 points in an NBA Finals game? Come on. Don't tell me how much tougher the 90s were. I grew up in the 90s for the record.
Brian, real quick, if someone could remove this Johnny Detroit guy from the chat room, please. He's really making a lot of noise. They're arguing with me about Spud Webb. I'm right.
96
Spud Webb and Muggsy Bogues, 1 and 2 greatest basketball players of all time. End of story. End of story.
And there's truth to that. That's the 97 finals and 98 finals. Game 3 in Chicago. 96-54. You are correct.
Bryan Power, let's get into this EPL game.
Yes.
Fascinating game for me, bro. I think you take Brighton straight up. Manchester City is in a situation, I don't know if you guys are following what's going on, but Manchester City can do the triple. And that is as big a deal in sports as there is in the entire world. There's probably, outside of the World Cup, there's probably not one single thing other than maybe the triple in horse racing that is bigger and more important to a team than the triple. They just wrapped up the EPL. This game is completely meaningless. They're playing Brighton. How do we bet this one?
Well, Prez, first of all, I don't think anything settles down the chat room quite like a little EPL. And number two, you took the words right out of my mouth there. Because for those less familiar with the Premier League or soccer in general, Manchester City's already wrapped up the Premier League title. So they have nothing to play for in their 2 matches this week, including this one Wednesday against Brighton. Erling Haaland's going to sit. Kevin De Bruyne is going to sit. We saw them come on as substitutes on Sunday. That was probably just a treat for the home folks because they were getting the trophy after the match against Chelsea. And as you alluded to, Prez, all that City cares about the rest of the way are a couple of cup finals because they can earn 3 pieces of hardware total. They've already wrapped up the Premier League. They've got the FA Cup against Manchester United, and then the big one, the Champions League final against Inter Milan. Those matches take place the first 2 Saturdays in
And
June.
Bry, they are heavily favored in both the FA Cup final and the Championship League final. So we're on the verge of history with this team. Sorry to interrupt.
As they should be. No, as they should be. They're the best team in the world, no doubt about it. Now, Brighton, I like this team. Their manager, Roberto De Zerbi, he's been vocal in recent days about wanting his team to qualify for the Europa League, which is the second most prestigious competition in Europe behind the Champions League, as opposed to the Europa Conference League. To ensure they get that Europa League spot, all they need, guys, in these next two matches, 1 point here. 1 point. And this is the first time that Brighton has qualified in club history for European football next season. So it's a big deal. They're at home, and I think their desire to just get at least a point is the key in the handicap here. We're getting the plus half a goal. You could certainly take them straight up. I would sprinkle a little pizza money on that, Prez, but you could get half a goal at a very attractive price right now, plus money. That means if the match ends in a draw, we still cash. Obviously, we'll take the outright win too, but going back to what I said at the start, I see this as a hangover spot for Manchester City, quite possibly literally a hangover spot. There was a lot of celebrating over the weekend when they clinched the Premier League title, but they did so with Arsenal losing to Nottingham Forest. So I don't see this as a spot, guys, where City really cares. The opposite is true with Brighton, who have been great at home all year. I think they'd love to clinch that Europa League spot in front of their home supporters. And this is a team, guys, top 4 in the league in both expected points and expected goal differential. Give me the half goal head start with Brighton. Love the price there. I expect them to earn at least a draw, if not get the outright win on Wednesday.
Theodore?
So, I want to ask you about match versus game. Are these games? These aren't games. These are matches, right? What happens when someone calls it a game? Does that show that you don't bet soccer, or that you're a U.S. idiot, or how does that work? Or is there something to it? You can call it either way?
A figure of speech. Yeah, you can go either way. No one will make fun. You can call it a fixture if you'd like. That's more popular.
That's your follow-up question, Teddy? Okay, then, everybody. Actionable
Let's talk about the White Sox and the
Teddy
Guardians.
Covers. White Sox at Guardians. Bry, go.
Yeah, I'll be at the game tomorrow afternoon, by the way, at Progressive Field. But let's talk about Tuesday night here on the docket. The Guardians really impressed me Monday by going out and winning the series opener, guys, 3-0. They were off a day-night doubleheader on Sunday against the Mets. We talk about it all the time on these shows, right? Coming off the Sunday night game, typically a disadvantage, particularly when a team has to travel on Monday, whether it be back home or somewhere else. So for the Guardians to win in that spot last night, pretty impressive, I would say. Now, all 3 games in New York were decided by 1 run. So the Guardians will probably do some positive regression. No team has more 1-run losses this season than the Guardians, 13. So by that metric, you could maybe make a case they're slightly better than their overall record, which is 21-26 right now. Regardless, I like them to beat the White Sox again tonight. Chicago is a team, guys, I just do not have much affinity for. Bottom 3 in baseball in run differential, outscored by 57 runs so far. They have just 7 road wins all season. And they came into the series, flying high a little bit, won 5 of 6. They swept the Royals over the weekend. All that was at home, though, guys. And while they took 2 of 3 from Cleveland last week, again, at home, the lone loss in that series came with the starting pitching matchup we've got tonight, Dylan Cease against Logan Allen. And that ended up being another low-scoring affair between these teams, 3-1, with Allen turning in the better outing. And I like Allen to get the better Cease again here tonight. I know some are going to say Cease, pretty attractive in the underdog role here. But guys, 5.31 road ERA, and overall his expected ERA, 2 full points higher than last season. Winless his last 7 starts overall. Strikeout rate down compared to 2022, and he's given up a home run in 5 of his last 6 starts. 5.65 ERA in his career at Progressive Field. And then Logan Allen, he's allowed 3 earned runs or less all 5 of his starts this far. The Guardians offense, Ralph touched on this a bit. They've been inept at times, certainly this season, but Cease is a righty. And 3-game win streak at home for Cleveland. They've won 67% of their games at Progressive Field the last 3 seasons as a favorite of -125 to -175. This number has been bet up to about -130 at most shops, but I say give me the home team. This is a 4% client play, as was Brighton for the record.
Brian says, look at the Guardians. Even though they had a tough spot yesterday and plowed through it, no after effects today. Look for them to take care of business against the Chicago White Sox. Brian, what do you have to promote over at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, Teddy, thanks for Prez. Thanks for having me on. It is a big day here. I have a rare 5% play going in MLB. We're on a 12-2 run in MLB. Not only number one at Wager Talk the last 3 days, the last 7 days at MLB, but going all the way back to last October, number one in MLB, up 73.3 units during that time, 73, 42, and 1 record. Very proud of that, obviously. And if you want more than just that 5% MLB play, oh, by the way, number one at Wager Talk with all 5% plays going back to last December, I've hit 73% of those. If you want more than just the 5% MLB play, for just $4 extra, you can get my NBA play tonight. So $39 gets you 5% MLB and the NBA Eastern Conference Game 4 winner. It's right on my page right now. Looking forward to another big night, guys. And thanks for having me on.
Bryan Power, everybody. And I do want to mention on that $39 price, we have not adjusted to inflation. I just want to point that out. Our prices have not gone up. And the reason I say that is I went to the store yesterday to buy a steak. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Teddy covers. But we're going into the BS strategy section. We need 13 more likes for a presidential address. And guys, I won last night, 2-1. My run continues. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm on a 27-10 all sports run and a 9-1 NBA run, 12-4 baseball run, on and on and on. Please use the promo code PREZ54. You get 7 days. Instead of $99, it's $54. We had a huge uptake yesterday, but I have not broken the record. I'm not even close, and it is important to me. So please head over to Wager Talk and take advantage of that promo, Prez54. Teddy, it's amazing. We have 2 guests, and we're running late, which is fine because both guests were incredible. Let's get into the BS segment. Daniel. Worst music ever. Teddy, Christopher Barsky writes, and this was put up last week. So he's talking about a game I played last week, but it's a good question. Great show as usual. Noticed something today when I went to go play one of Prez's picks that both Atlanta and Texas team totals were plus prices. For your BS segment, I wonder if taking the same size unit bet and splitting them on both is better bet than taking the actual straight over. So what he's saying here is if it's over 9, do you take it over 9 or do you take both teams to go over their team total respectively if it's plus money? My answer, and I'm going to go to you on this, Teddy, is no. I do not take both teams to go over the total in that situation at all. I could very easily turn a winner into a push. So I'm a no on that. You, my friend?
I'm with you 100%. I'm a no on that as well. Again, one team scores 7, one team scores 3. Game goes over the total, but you're going to split on your 2 team totals, even with the plus price. And remember, the plus price, plus 105, plus 110, they don't even equate together, equaling a half a run worth of juice, how much it's worth between, let's say, a 9 and a 9.5 or an 8.5 and 9. So that plus price might look attractive, but the better bet tends to be the overall total as opposed to the 2 team totals. And never forget, more bets equals more juice and more chance of pushing as opposed to winning. So I'm with you 100%, Lawrence. That's one where it absolutely would be the side, not the 2 sides, not the 2 team totals. I would think the 1 full game total,
right,
or first 5 total, whichever it was.
Yeah, we're on the same page on that one. Guys, please take 2 minutes at the end of our show. We put it up live on YouTube, not live, but the show goes up on YouTube. Give us some questions, man. Teddy texted me last night. He's like, well, if they don't have any questions, make something up. You don't want me to make anything up. Ask us the questions. There's a million questions. There are books this big on how to bet. So you guys got the questions. Please ask us. Also, Teddy, Dan said he would change the music for the BS strategy if we ever end a show on time. Challenge accepted, Dan. We will end tomorrow's show on time. Theodore, we got 104. We got okay. Well, I'm in control. So, do you want to make a bet?
Yeah, and remember, tomorrow's 3 guests with Arthur Caesar to close out the show. Yes, I'll make a bet with you. You don't want to fight with me on this one. I can drag like nobody's business.
Oh yeah, I'll
stretch
just
it
cut
out.
The show off. Cut the show.
No, you
off.
just leave, and that's not how it works. We're live on YouTube. You don't have that button to cut the show off. Dan does behind the scenes. Presidential address. Did we get there or no?
Oh, we always get there. I'm golfing with my dad today, Teddy, and I have no buffer. I think I'm going to have to medicate. Dan, cue it up, baby. All right, it's time for your daily presidential address, and I want to start it by addressing Schmidt Happens. I talked about how hot I am, and I have a promo going up, Prez 54, 7 days, $54. I have won 18 of my last 24 days of betting, 18 of my last 24, and 12 of my last 14. Schmidt Happens gets into the chat room on our show, WagerTalk Today, and he writes, there has to be some half-truth to these spins, these runs. Wasn't it but a week ago where Prez was absolutely ice cold? So, Schmidt, we love you. Thank you for joining us. But again, I've won 12 of my last 14 days. That ain't spinach. That is fact. So I don't know where you're getting your info. Guys, use the promo code Prez54, 7 days, almost half price. Take advantage of that. Teddy, I got 2 bets. One in the MLB. We're going with the under in the Blue Jays and Tampa Bay game. The under. And I like the over in tonight's basketball game. Please tell me you're not going to come on here and give out the under. What do you got?
I'm not going to give out the under. Don't you worry about that. Not even maybe, Lawrence. I'll give you a bettable opinion for tonight. Go to Cincinnati at Great American Ballpark and take 2 teams that are trending over, and particularly the Cardinals trending over the total, and expect more of the same. Don't trust either starter here. Don't trust either bullpen. 2 lineups that we like. One over last night. I think it goes over again today. You can still find 10s if you shop around for Cincy and St. Louis. Look for that game to get up and over the total. Full write-up on my page at WagerTalk.com.
That's the show, everyone. It was super fun. Teddy, brother, I'm having a sub for lunch today. Probably a club with extra bacon. Take us home.
Enjoy the games, and best of luck with all your wagers. We'll see you guys right here. Same time, same channel. Tomorrow on Wager Talk Today. Cheers.
The Prez turns 54 on May 22nd, and we want to celebrate Lawrence's 54th birthday all week long by offering everyone 7 days of his selections for just $54 using coupon code PREZ54 when checking out on a 7-day all-access pass. That's every play in every sport for 7 days, including any 5% releases for just $54 versus a regular price of $99, coming out to only $7.71 per day. Over the last 365 days, Prez has picked up 60 units for his clients, and you can bet right alongside him for the next 7 days, including getting down on any rare 5% best bets released during your access that normally sell for $35 each. Just like fine wine, the Prez is getting better with age. Happy birthday, Prez, and take advantage of code PREZ54 and get 7 days for only $54.